What if everything you thought you knew about Sodom and Gomorrah was only half the story? These infamous cities weren't just destroyed for one sin or even a few. They embodied a deeper rebellion that has shocking parallels to our world today. But here's the catch. Most people overlook the real reasons behind their downfall, and by doing so, they miss the warnings that are just as relevant now as they were then. Could we be making the same mistakes without even realizing it? This isn't just another biblical story about judgment. It's a blueprint for understanding how pride, idleness, and moral corruption can quietly take root in anyone's life. Yours, mine, even entire societies. The Bible doesn't just recount their destruction. It uncovers their 7 deadly sins, sins that didn't just provoke God's wrath, but sealed their fate. And here's the kicker. These sins aren't relics of the past. They're alive and thriving today, hidden in plain sight. Now let me ask you, what if this story isn't about condemnation, but about a wake-up call? What if understanding these sins could shield you from their devastating consequences and transform your life? Stick with me as we unveil the 7 main sins of Sodom and Gomorrah, a journey into the heart of the Bible that could change how you see your purpose, your faith, and the world around you. What you'll discover might just surprise you. Picture a city where darkness isn't just in the alleys, but in every heart. Sodom and Gomorrah weren't just bad. They were legendarily bad. Their wickedness was so rampant that even the heavens couldn't ignore the cries of the oppressed. Genesis 18:20-21 doesn't mince words. Their sin was grievous. Murder, cruelty, violence. It wasn't a bad day here or there. It was a way of life. Imagine walking through a market where honesty is extinct and kindness is ridiculed. A place like that doesn't just self-destruct, it begs for divine intervention. Now, before you think, that was thousands of years ago, what does it have to do with me? Let's reflect on today. Modern cruelty isn't always as dramatic, but just as damaging. Think about the internet. How many times have you scrolled past hateful comments or seen someone humiliated online? It's like Sodom, but with Wi-Fi. What's your role in that scenario? A simple act, like standing up against cyberbullying or reporting harmful content, could ripple into real change. In Sodom, power was a weapon. The strong didn't protect the weak, they exploited them. Today, we see echoes of this in corrupt systems, from shady landlords evicting families unfairly to corporations polluting without consequence. So what's the modern Abraham move? Maybe it's donating to a legal aid fund, volunteering for environmental causes, or simply voting for leaders who value justice. Action doesn't have to be grand to be godly. Here's the thing. Wickedness isn't always loud. Sometimes it whispers. Gossip, jealousy, and selfishness may seem harmless, but left unchecked, they grow into something monstrous. It's like weeds in a garden. Ignore them, and they'll choke out every flower. Ever worked in an office where a few toxic attitudes ruin the whole atmosphere? Standing firm in kindness and truth isn't easy, but it's how you keep your soul from joining the spiral. And let's talk about pride for a second. In Sodom, people didn't just sin, they flaunted it. They strutted through the streets, proud of their wickedness. Sound familiar? Today, we see it in people who boast about cutting corners, lying, or taking advantage of others. Here's the twist. Pride in sin is like painting a target on your back for consequences. True strength. It comes from admitting your flaws and choosing a better path. Wickedness also has a sneaky side. It loves disguises. The people of Sodom chased after quick rewards, wealth, pleasure, power. But like a sandcastle built too close to the tide, it all crumbled. Look around today. Get-rich-quick schemes, unethical businesses, or even relationships built on lies. They might shine for a moment, but the fallout is inevitable. The question is, are you building on rock or sand? One of the scariest parts of Sodom's story is how their evil became normalized. The line between right and wrong blurred until no one cared anymore. Think about that. When you're in a group where everyone laughs at a cruel joke, do you laugh too? It's easy to go along with the crowd, but doing the right thing, being the one who says, "This isn't okay," can be revolutionary. Let's get real. It's easier to point out other people's wickedness than to examine your own. But Sodom's downfall wasn't just about their actions, it was about their refusal to reflect and repent. What about you? When was the last time you asked yourself, am I really doing my best to live with integrity? Maybe it's time for a gut check. And don't worry, it's not about perfection, it's about direction. The story of Sodom is also a lesson in consequences. Their wickedness didn't stay contained, it infected everything. Picture a family letting anger fester. It starts with cold shoulders, turns into arguments, and ends in estrangement. Now multiply that by an entire city. Wickedness spreads like wildfire. But here's the good news. Righteousness is just as contagious. One act of kindness can inspire others and change the atmosphere around you. Sodom's fate shows us that ignoring warnings is a fast track to disaster. How many times do we get those little nudges, our conscience, a friend's advice, even a Bible verse, but brush them off? It's easy to think, I'll fix it tomorrow. But as Sodom learned the hard way, sometimes there's no tomorrow. Maybe today is your chance to listen, to take that first step towards something better. And here's the kicker. The story isn't just about judgment, it's about the opportunity to change. Even in the darkest places, there's hope if someone chooses to act. Abraham stood in the gap, pleading for mercy. What if you became that person in your world? What if your choices today could shift the future for someone else? There's something chilling about exchanging the infinite for the temporary. The people of Sodom and Gomorrah didn't just drift from God. They ran toward idols. They worshipped power, wealth, and pleasure as though these things could fill the gaping void in their souls. Romans 1:25 captures it perfectly. They exchanged the truth of God for a lie. Ever notice how easy it is to do the same today? Maybe it's not a golden calf, but how often do people bow to the altar of career, social media, or possessions? Think about this. Idolatry doesn't always look like ancient statues. Sometimes it's as subtle as spending more time chasing likes than pursuing purpose. For instance, have you ever caught yourself scrolling endlessly, comparing your life to others? That comparison becomes a trap, a modern idol that steals your joy. The solution: start small. Set limits on screen time or replace it with something meaningful, like journaling or volunteering. It's about shifting focus from distractions to destiny. In Sodom, materialism wasn't just a hobby, it was a lifestyle. Their obsession with wealth blinded them to spiritual truths. Today, we see similar patterns. Luxury cars, designer labels, or the latest tech often take center stage. But here's a thought. Do these things bring lasting happiness? Ask anyone buried in debt from chasing trends. True wealth isn't found in possessions, but in purpose. Try this. Instead of buying more, invest in experiences or relationships. You'll be surprised how fulfilling simplicity can be. Idolatry also creeps into relationships. The people of Sodom didn't just idolize things, they idolized their desires. How many times do we put someone or something on a pedestal, expecting it to save us? A relationship, a job, or even a dream can become an idol if we let it. Healthy relationships thrive when they're built on mutual respect, not worship. If you're unsure, ask yourself, am I clinging to this because it's right, or because I fear losing it? The problem with idolatry is how easily it disguises itself as harmless. The people of Sodom thought they were just living their best lives, but their freedom was a chain in disguise. Today, it's no different. Take workaholism, for example. On the surface, it looks productive, but it often masks deeper insecurities or misplaced priorities. What's the remedy? Sabbath. Yes, rest. Even God took a day off. Start by setting boundaries. Close the laptop, unplug, and reconnect with what truly matters. Idolatry isn't just about what we worship, it's about what we trust. The people of Sodom trusted in their wealth, their strength, and their pleasures to sustain them. But here's the irony. All those things failed. It's like building a house on sand. No matter how impressive it looks, the foundation is faulty. Ask yourself, where's your trust anchored? If the answer isn't God, maybe it's time to rebuild. Let's get practical. Modern idols aren't always obvious. They can be hobbies, habits, or even good things taken to unhealthy extremes. Fitness, for instance, is great. But when it consumes your thoughts and becomes your identity, it crosses into idolatry. Balance is key. Enjoy life's gifts, but don't let them replace the giver. If you need a reset, try fasting from something you've been clinging to. It could be coffee, social media, or even a favorite show. You'll be amazed at how it shifts your perspective. The danger of idolatry is its subtlety. It often starts with good intentions, like wanting to provide for your family, but spirals into obsession. The people of Sodom thought their pursuit of wealth and pleasure would secure their future. Instead, it blinded them to their downfall. What about you? Are there areas where your focus has drifted? Sometimes, all it takes is a moment of reflection to course correct. One of the most tragic parts of Sodom's story is how they ignored the warning signs. Idolatry doesn't implode overnight. It erodes your foundation piece by piece. Imagine a ship slightly off course. At first, it seems fine, but over time it drifts into dangerous waters. That's what idolatry does. It slowly pulls you away from your true purpose. The question is, are you willing to adjust your sails? And here's the twist. The idols we chase often end up enslaving us. Sodom's people thought their wealth and pleasures made them free, but it was those very things that led to their destruction. Sound familiar? How often do people think they're in control, only to realize they're trapped by the very things they pursued? Breaking free starts with acknowledging the chains. What's holding you back today? Sodom's idolatry wasn't just about them, it impacted their entire community. When a society places its trust in false gods, it spirals into chaos. Think about it. Greed leads to inequality, lust leads to broken families, and pride leads to division. But here's the hope. One person choosing truth can spark a change. Imagine if you became that person, a light in the darkness, pointing others back to the truth. Before we dive into the next sins, I want to hear from you. Out of the sins of Sodom and Gomorrah we've discussed so far, which one do you think is the most relevant today? Or maybe you've noticed something in your own life that connects to these stories. Share your thoughts in the comments. I read every single one, and it's amazing to see how these reflections can inspire and impact us all. Don't be shy. Your perspective might just encourage someone else. Sodom and Gomorrah's reputation for moral corruption didn't appear overnight. It was a slow decay, a series of compromises that led to an environment where anything went, and not in a good way. Jude 1:7 calls out their actions, describing how they gave themselves up to sexual immorality and perversion. But this wasn't just about their behavior. It was a deeper issue of rejecting boundaries, abandoning the God-given framework that brings order to life. It's a warning as relevant today as it was back then. Let's talk about boundaries. They exist for a reason, don't they? Imagine a river without banks. It spills everywhere, causing destruction. That's what happened in Sodom. They saw boundaries as chains rather than safeguards, and it led to chaos. Today, we see echoes of this in how society often glorifies freedom at any cost. But true freedom isn't about doing whatever you want. It's about choosing what's right. Have you ever considered how setting healthy boundaries in relationships or habits could actually bring more peace? Sodom's downfall wasn't just individual, it was cultural. Their collective acceptance of moral corruption created a society where no one was safe. Think about environments today where abuse or exploitation goes unchecked because it's normalized. It could be a workplace, a school, or even a community. The question is, what can you do to stand against that? Maybe it's as simple as speaking up when something feels wrong or offering support to someone in need. Small acts can disrupt cycles of corruption. And then there's the issue of violence intertwined with immorality. The men of Sodom didn't just indulge in sin, they forced it onto others, as seen in Genesis 19:5 when they demanded to harm Lot's guests. It's a stark reminder that unchecked desires often lead to exploitation. In our world, this might look like manipulation in relationships or even the dark realities of human trafficking. Combating these issues starts with awareness and action, supporting organizations that fight exploitation or being vigilant in your own circles. Here's a practical takeaway. Moral corruption often thrives in secrecy. The people of Sodom didn't wake up one day as a corrupt society. It grew in the shadows. What about you? Are there areas in your life where secrecy is feeding sin? Maybe it's an addiction, a toxic relationship, or a pattern of dishonesty. Bringing those struggles into the light, whether through accountability, counseling, or prayer, can be the first step toward freedom. Now let's touch on the elephant in the room: sexual immorality. Sodom is often associated with homosexuality, but the Bible makes it clear this was just one piece of a larger picture. Their sins included violence, arrogance, and a complete disregard for others. It's a reminder not to single out one sin while ignoring others. The heart of the matter is this: when we put our desires above God's design, chaos follows. It's not about condemnation, it's about recalibration. What steps can you take to align your choices with His plan? One powerful lesson from Sodom's story is the danger of normalizing sin. The more we justify or excuse certain behaviors, the easier it becomes to lose sight of what's right. Have you ever noticed how desensitization works? The first time you see something wrong, it shocks you. By the 10th time, it's just normal. Maybe it's time to revisit what you've accepted as okay in your life. Are there habits, shows, or even friendships that subtly pull you away from what's good? And let's not forget the ripple effect of moral corruption. Sodom's sins didn't just affect individuals, they poisoned the entire community. It's like a toxic spill in a river. Everything downstream is impacted. Think about your influence. Are you adding to the moral health of your community or contributing to its decay? Even small actions, like showing kindness or standing firm in your values, can make a difference. Never underestimate the power of one righteous person. The irony of Sodom's story is that they thought they were living their best lives, indulging in every whim. But in reality, they were enslaved by their desires. It's a trap many fall into today. The promise of instant gratification often comes with hidden chains. Addictions, broken relationships, or a loss of purpose. The good news: breaking free starts with a choice. What's one area in your life where you can trade temporary pleasure for lasting peace? Here's another angle. Sodom's moral corruption wasn't just about what they did, it was about what they ignored. They ignored the cries of the oppressed, the warnings of the righteous, and the guidance of God. Isn't that a sobering thought? Sometimes sin isn't just about action, it's about inaction. Are there things you've been turning a blind eye to, thinking, it's not my problem? Maybe today is the day to step up, to be the change in someone's story. As the flames consumed Sodom and Gomorrah, their sins came to a final, devastating end. But the lesson doesn't have to end there. This story is a mirror, reflecting the dangers of unchecked desires and the power of repentance. What if, instead of following the path of destruction, you chose a different route? What if this moment was your turning point, your chance to align with God's design? After all, the next chapter is always waiting to be written. Sodom and Gomorrah weren't just destroyed for their big, flashy sins. One of their deepest failings was surprisingly subtle: idleness. Ezekiel 16:49-50 reveals the root of their complacency: pride, fullness of food, and prosperous ease. They had wealth and abundance, but chose comfort over purpose. Picture it: a city so rich in resources that no one felt the need to work for the common good. It wasn't laziness, it was purposelessness. And that purposelessness bred arrogance and neglect of the needy. Let's be honest, idleness has a way of sneaking into our own lives too, doesn't it? Think about those days when you binge-watch an entire series or scroll endlessly on your phone, knowing there's something more meaningful you could be doing. The problem isn't rest. It's what happens when rest turns into apathy. What would happen if you swapped just an hour of that screen time for something purposeful, like reading a book on spiritual growth or calling a friend who needs encouragement? The people of Sodom had every opportunity to make their city a beacon of hope, but instead, they used their time to fuel their pride. Sound familiar? In today's world, idleness often disguises itself as busyness. People fill their schedules with distractions instead of pursuing things that truly matter. Are you working toward goals that align with your purpose, or just spinning your wheels? If you're feeling stuck, start small. Set a daily goal that reflects your values, like volunteering or dedicating time to prayer. Idleness isn't just about what you don't do, it's about what you ignore. Sodom's people ignored the poor and needy, even though they had more than enough to help. In modern times, this could look like walking past a homeless person or turning a blind eye to someone struggling in your community. What's one practical way you can make a difference this week? Maybe it's donating to a local food bank, offering your time, or simply being kind to someone who feels invisible. And then there's the spiritual side of idleness. It's easy to become complacent in faith, isn't it? Maybe you've thought, I'll pray later, or I'll start reading the Bible when I have more time. But spiritual idleness is like letting a fire die out. It starts slow, but before you know it, the warmth is gone. Reignite that fire by taking small steps, like reading a single Bible verse each morning or joining a study group. Purpose starts with intention. One of the greatest dangers of idleness is how it feeds pride. When you're too comfortable, it's easy to think you don't need anyone, not even God. Sodom's people were so full of themselves that they forgot who gave them their abundance. Think about that for a moment. Have you ever caught yourself taking blessings for granted, assuming they'll always be there? Gratitude is the antidote. Try starting each day by listing 3 things you're thankful for. It's a small habit that shifts your mindset from pride to humility. Idleness also creates a vacuum that sin loves to fill. When you're not actively pursuing purpose, temptations find their way in. Maybe it's spending money you don't have, indulging in gossip, or falling into bad habits simply because there's nothing else occupying your mind. The best defense against this is action. What's one passion project you've put off for too long? Dive into it, even if it's just for 30 minutes a day. Purpose doesn't just keep you busy, it keeps you grounded. Let's get real. Idleness isn't just about individuals, it's about communities. Imagine a group of people who could change the world, but instead spend their days chasing comfort. That was Sodom. Their neglect of purpose didn't just affect themselves, it poisoned their society. What about your community? Are there ways you can inspire others to take action? Sometimes, all it takes is one person stepping up to spark a movement. Could that person be you? Here's the irony. Idleness feels good in the moment, but leaves a hollow ache over time. Have you ever finished a day of doing nothing and felt unsatisfied? That's because we're wired for purpose. Even small tasks, like tidying up your space or helping someone else, can create a sense of fulfillment. What's one thing you can do today to make tomorrow a little brighter? Purpose isn't about grand gestures, it's about consistent, meaningful action. Sodom's story shows us that ignoring purpose has consequences. Their abundance wasn't a blessing, it became their downfall because they misused it. Think about your own blessings. Are you using them to uplift others or just coasting through life? Maybe it's time to reassess how you spend your time, energy, and resources. What if your greatest purpose is hidden in the very things you've been neglecting? And here's the twist. Purpose doesn't have to be monumental to matter. The smallest act, offering a smile, lending a hand, sharing a kind word, can ripple out in ways you'll never fully see. Sodom's idleness led to destruction, but your choice to act could lead to transformation. What will you do with the time you've been given? Pride has a way of blinding people, doesn't it? In Sodom, sin wasn't just practiced, it was celebrated. Isaiah 3:9 paints a vivid picture. They parade their sin like Sodom. They do not hide it. Imagine a culture where wrong isn't just ignored, but flaunted. That was Sodom's reality. Their pride wasn't about achievement, it was about defiance, an open challenge to God's authority. And yet, doesn't that sound eerily familiar today? Think about how pride shows up in modern life. It's not just in grand gestures, it's in the little things too. Ever seen someone brag about cutting corners at work or getting away with something unethical? It's that same spirit, celebrating sin instead of seeking integrity. The danger here is subtle. Pride in sin starts small but grows quickly. What's the antidote? Humility. Practicing honesty, even when it's inconvenient, keeps pride in check and realigns you with God's purpose. Sodom's arrogance wasn't just personal, it was communal. Their society not only embraced sin, but normalized it. When people collectively agree to call evil good, it's a recipe for disaster. Think about today's world. How often do we see harmful behaviors excused or even praised? Gossip becomes just venting, greed becomes ambition, and selfishness is framed as self-care. What if we chose to question those narratives and stand for truth instead? Let's get practical. Pride in sin often hides behind excuses. In Sodom, people likely justified their actions with phrases like, "Everyone's doing it," or "It's not that bad." Sound familiar? Maybe you've caught yourself rationalizing something you know is wrong. The solution? Accountability. Find someone you trust, a mentor, a friend, or a spiritual leader, and invite them to call you out when you stray. It's not easy, but it's a powerful guardrail against arrogance. Here's a tough truth. Pride in sin thrives in isolation. The more you isolate yourself from truth, the easier it becomes to believe your own lies. Sodom's people weren't open to correction. They rejected divine warnings and ignored righteous voices like Lot's. How about you? Are there areas in your life where you've shut out wisdom? Reopening those doors through prayer, reading the Bible, or seeking wise counsel can be the first step toward real change. One of the most striking lessons from Sodom is how pride blinds people to consequences. They lived as if judgment would never come, indulging in sin without a second thought. Today, we see the same mindset in those who live for the moment, ignoring how their actions affect others or their own future. But here's the twist. True freedom comes from recognizing limits. What's one area where you can trade arrogance for awareness? Maybe it's reevaluating how you treat others or taking responsibility for past mistakes. Pride in sin often goes hand in hand with entitlement. The people of Sodom acted as if they were untouchable, that their wealth and power made them immune to accountability. How often do we see this today? Whether it's a leader abusing their position or someone refusing to admit when they're wrong, entitlement is a slippery slope. The way out, gratitude, practicing daily thankfulness, whether it's for a meal, a friend, or simply another day, can ground you in humility. Another danger of pride in sin is how it blinds us to the needs of others. Sodom's arrogance led them to neglect the poor and mistreat strangers. In our own lives, pride can manifest as selfishness, putting our wants above others' needs. Take a moment to reflect. Is there someone you could help but haven't because it's inconvenient? Even a small act of kindness, like buying groceries for a neighbor or listening to a friend in crisis, can break the cycle of self-centeredness. Let's dig deeper. Pride in sin isn't just about arrogance, it's about rebellion. Sodom's people didn't just ignore God's ways, they actively rejected them. It's the difference between stumbling into sin and sprinting toward it. Have you ever felt that pull to go your own way, even when you know it's wrong? That's rebellion at work. The remedy? Surrender. Not in a passive way, but actively choosing to align your life with God's design. It's not easy, but it's worth it. The ripple effects of pride in sin can't be ignored. Sodom's arrogance didn't just harm individuals, it corrupted their entire culture. Imagine a family where prideful decisions create distance, resentment, or even broken relationships. Now magnify that to a city or a nation. The good news? Change starts small. By choosing humility in your own life, you can influence those around you. What's one area where you can lead by example today? And here's the thing. Sodom's story isn't just about destruction. It's a cautionary tale about the power of repentance. Pride in sin leads to ruin, but humility opens the door to restoration. What if, instead of parading our flaws, we chose to address them? What if this moment became a turning point, not just for you, but for everyone you influence? After all, the next step is always yours to take. Sodom and Gomorrah weren't just destroyed because of immorality. Their hearts were hardened by cruelty and inhospitality. Genesis 19:5 tells a chilling story of how the men of Sodom demanded to harm Lot's angelic guests. Hospitality in ancient times was sacred, a sign of respect and reverence for God's creation. Yet in Sodom, strangers were seen not as guests to welcome, but as targets to exploit. This wasn't just a failure to be kind, it was an open rejection of God's command to love others. Let's put this into perspective. How do we treat strangers today? It's not always about inviting someone into your home, but about how you respond to the needy or those who are different from you. Ever walk past someone asking for help on the street, pretending you didn't see them? That moment of ignoring is a small echo of Sodom's inhospitality. A simple act of kindness, like buying someone a meal or even offering a smile, can break that pattern of indifference. The cruelty of Sodom's people didn't stop at neglect. It turned into outright violence. Their society was marked by selfishness and a complete disregard for others. Think about modern parallels: online harassment, workplace bullying, or communities that close their doors to outsiders. Social cruelty isn't always physical. It's the act of dehumanizing someone because it's easier than showing compassion. What can you do in your circle to create a culture of respect and inclusion? Maybe it's standing up for someone being mistreated or offering a helping hand to someone new. Inhospitality often stems from fear or pride. The people of Sodom saw strangers as threats, not opportunities for connection. Sound familiar? How often do we avoid engaging with someone different from us because it feels uncomfortable? Maybe it's someone from a different culture, faith, or social class. Breaking that cycle starts with curiosity. Ask questions, listen, and look for common ground. You'd be surprised how much kindness can bridge divides. Here's something to consider. Inhospitality isn't just about individuals, it can become systemic. Sodom's culture didn't value the vulnerable or the outsider. Today, we see similar patterns in systems that marginalize certain groups or deny basic rights. It might feel overwhelming to tackle such big issues, but small actions matter. Volunteer at a shelter, support organizations fighting for justice, or simply educate yourself about the challenges others face. Compassion grows when we choose to see the humanity in every person. Let's not ignore the spiritual side of hospitality. In Hebrews 13:2, we're reminded to show hospitality to strangers, for by so doing, some have entertained angels without knowing it. Imagine if Lot had turned the angels away. What blessings could you be missing by closing yourself off to new connections? Start small, invite someone for coffee, open your home for a gathering, or reach out to a neighbor. Hospitality isn't about perfection, it's about making space for others. Sodom's story also highlights the cost of neglecting community. Their inhospitality wasn't just about strangers, it extended to their own people. The poor and needy were ignored, and those who spoke out, like Lot, were ridiculed. Think about your community. Are their voices being silenced or people being overlooked? Being hospitable isn't just about inviting someone to dinner, it's about creating an environment where everyone feels valued. What's one step you can take to foster that inclusivity? There's another layer to Sodom's inhospitality. They lost sight of the sacredness of others. When Lot's guests arrived, they were seen as objects to exploit, not people to honor. It's a stark reminder that cruelty often begins when we stop seeing others as made in God's image. How can we restore that vision in our own lives? Maybe it's as simple as offering a kind word to someone who feels invisible, or taking time to listen to someone's story. Inhospitality also has a way of creating isolation. Sodom's people didn't just harm others, they cut themselves off from God's blessings. True hospitality is about connection, both with people and with God. When you open your heart to others, you invite God's presence into your life. Is there someone you've been avoiding, or a relationship you've let drift apart? Reaching out could be the first step toward healing for both you and them. The irony of Sodom's story is that their cruelty didn't make them stronger, it destroyed them. Social cruelty often feels like power in the moment, but it erodes trust, unity, and even personal peace. Think about your own relationships or community. Are there areas where pride or fear has led to distance or conflict? Humility and kindness aren't just nice traits. They're the glue that holds us together. Sodom's fate wasn't just a punishment. It was a warning about what happens when we reject God's call to love others. But here's the hope. Every day is an opportunity to choose differently. What if you became known for your hospitality, your compassion, your willingness to see others as God sees them? What impact could that have on your family, your community, even the world? Sodom and Gomorrah didn't fall overnight. Their destruction came after countless warnings from God, which they chose to ignore. Genesis 19:13 captures the gravity of the moment. We are about to destroy this place, because the outcry to the Lord against its people is so great. But here's the thing, warnings are rarely sudden. God's mercy gave them chances to turn back, yet their pride and rebellion drowned out every call. Have you ever ignored a warning, thinking you had more time, only to regret it later? Ignoring divine warnings is a slippery slope, isn't it? It starts small, overlooking a nudge from your conscience, brushing off advice, or delaying action, just for now. Sodom's people likely thought the same. What's the rush? Nothing's going to happen. Sound familiar? Maybe there's something in your life right now that feels like a small issue, but deep down, you know it's not. What if today was your chance to change course before it's too late? Let's get real. Warnings aren't always dramatic. Sometimes they're subtle. A friend's advice, a Bible verse that stirs your heart, or even that uneasy feeling when you know something's off. Lot's plea to the men of Sodom was one such warning, but it fell on deaf ears. How often do we dismiss those gentle reminders, convincing ourselves they're insignificant? Start paying attention. Write down those moments of conviction. They might just be God's way of steering you back on track. Sodom's rejection of divine warnings wasn't just ignorance, it was defiance. They didn't just ignore God, they actively chose to go against him. It's a pattern we see even today. Think about how society often mocks faith or downplays spiritual truths. Have you ever felt that pull to stay silent about your beliefs to avoid standing out? Rejection of warnings doesn't have to be loud. Sometimes it's in the quiet moments of compromise. What's one area where you can stand firm in your faith this week? One of the most striking parts of this story is Abraham's intercession. Even as Sodom ignored God, Abraham pleaded on their behalf, showing the power of prayer in the face of judgment. Who in your life needs intercession right now? Maybe it's a friend making poor choices or a family member drifting from faith. Don't underestimate the impact of your prayers. Like Abraham, you can stand in the gap, trusting that God's mercy is greater than anyone's mistakes. Divine warnings often come with second chances, but those chances don't last forever. Sodom had opportunities to change, but they squandered them. It's a sobering reminder. Delayed obedience is still disobedience. Is there something you've been putting off? An apology, a step of faith, or a commitment you've avoided? Don't wait for the perfect moment. It may never come. Take action today, trusting that God will meet you there. Sodom's story also teaches us about accountability. The warnings they received weren't vague. They were specific and direct. Yet, the people dismissed them as irrelevant. In our own lives, ignoring accountability can lead us down a similar path. Who do you have in your corner, speaking truth into your life? If no one comes to mind, it might be time to find a mentor or join a community of believers who can challenge and encourage you. Here's another angle. Rejection of warnings often stems from fear of change. Sodom's people clung to their sinful ways because it felt familiar, even comfortable. Isn't that the same reason we resist transformation? Change is hard, but stagnation is dangerous. What's one step you can take to embrace growth? Maybe it's committing to a daily devotional, seeking help for a bad habit, or simply saying yes to something God's been calling you to do. Let's talk about Lot's family for a moment. Even they struggled with fully heeding God's warning. Lot's wife, famously, looked back and became a pillar of salt, a stark symbol of what happens when we cling to the past instead of trusting God's plan. Are there areas in your life where you're holding on to what's behind you, even though you know it's time to move forward? Letting go isn't easy, but it's necessary for where God wants to take you. The rejection of divine warnings isn't just a personal issue, it affects entire communities. Sodom's downfall came because the collective ignored God's voice. In today's world, we see this when societies prioritize convenience, power, or pleasure over righteousness. The question is, what role are you playing in your community? Are you a voice of truth, like Abraham, or are you silently going along with the crowd? Small actions, like speaking up for justice or living out your values, can make a bigger impact than you realize. And here's the twist: divine warnings are never just about judgment, they're about mercy. God didn't warn Sodom because he wanted to destroy them. He warned them because he wanted to save them. That same mercy is extended to you today. What if the warning you're feeling right now isn't a threat, but an invitation? An opportunity to step into a better path, a closer relationship with God, and a brighter future. The choice is yours. Now that you've uncovered the 7 main sins of Sodom and Gomorrah, what will you do with this knowledge? These weren't just ancient mistakes, they were warnings, loud and clear, for every generation. And here's the real challenge. Are we brave enough to examine our own lives and make changes before it's too late? Think about it. Have you seen traces of pride, idleness, or moral compromise creeping into your choices? Maybe it's the small things. Ignoring a nudge to do what's right, staying silent when you should speak up, or clinging to habits that pull you away from God. These aren't just minor missteps, they're seeds that grow into something far bigger. The good news: every step toward repentance brings transformation. So let me ask you this. What's the one area in your life you know needs attention right now? Is it the way you treat others, how you spend your time, or the priorities you've let slide? What if today became the turning point where you choose faith over fear, purpose over apathy, and God's truth over fleeting pleasures? Don't let this story be just another tale you hear and forget. Engage with it. Share your thoughts, reflect on its lessons, and let it shape how you live. And if this message spoke to your heart, don't keep it to yourself. Subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell, and stay connected as we dive deeper into powerful biblical truths that can guide you in these uncertain times. Your journey doesn't end here, it's only beginning. So, what will you choose?